welcome you guys to another episode of Fan Response, episode 29. We got special guest Keshav Rao joining us today. Keshav actually went to high school with me, and we ran cross country and track together. This guy was really fast, helped train me to some of my best times. How you doing, man?
Doing great. Thanks for bringing me on. Very excited to
All right.
participate.
Yeah, I'm pleased to have you joining us, man. And you are a big SF and Bay Area sports fan, huh?
Oh, I got my Baron Davis hat just to tell the OGs, I am not just one that comes when they win. I'm there when they lose. And I got a Giants jersey on, well prepared for this meeting, and excited to share you some of my insights on Bay Area sports.
That is facts, man. You got the Giants, gear on. I got my Oakland A's polo ready to go. I got it from Isaiah, who used to work there and everything before the crisis. So I'm all ready to go, man, for sure. So,
Wonderful.
You're a big time Bay Area sports fan. Giants, Niners, Warriors. If you had to pick one favorite one, which one would you choose?
Very, very tough question. Something I've thought about before. I will say, I'll give it to you this way. The Giants were the team I grew up with as a little child, partly due to the fact that I played baseball when I was young. But the 49ers were just the team I would play a lot of video game sports with, Madden, for example. And then the Warriors, when they got Baron Davis, they told the Bay Area, there is a sports team that's coming. There's a basketball team here. And I think with the rise of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and the big three, Draymond Green, it just completely changed. So I will say, I'll put it to you this way. The Giants were the team in middle school and early parts of high school. The Warriors were the team during college. And then the Niners, when there was no baseball, that was the team I would focus on. I love them equally. I know that's not the best answer to say, but that's what I would go for.
Hey, fair winner over there, man. They have all of those teams have excellent fan bases, and they filled up stadiums long before they were contenders. Guys, I gotta set the air clear here, man. Before anyone, accuses Keshav of being a bandwagoner or a homer, I knew this guy way back in high school, man, like 2011, 2012, we're talking. I remember I used to come over to his house, and he would have 2K loaded up, and he loved playing with Jarrett Jack, Harrison Barnes. He thought, man, the Warriors were the future. So I got to give you props, man. You believed in your Warriors. They became a dynasty. Just a little bit of a shame that Colin Kaepernick couldn't get it done for the Niners.
It wasn't. The 49. I'll put it to you this way. The 49ers gave me the biggest heartbreaks. I will say that these Super Bowl losses in 2013, right? 2013, yeah. 2013 and 2020 were more heartbreaking than the finals loss for the Warriors in 2016. So, that's one thing I will say. But hopefully they complete it in 2021.
I totally agree with you, Keshav.
Yeah.
No, I just got to say, because Keshav's right. The Niners had that game against the Chiefs. We had a 20-10 lead in the third quarter in a game in which we were suffocating Patrick Mahomes and making Patrick Mahomes look like the worst quarterback in the NFL. And we let him off the hook, and we lost the Super Bowl. That's why this one for me hurts more than the Ravens one, because we had that game.
You certainly did, man.
I am going to say the Niners also had the game against the Ravens. If they ran the ball with Gore at the end, if they didn't make a few mistakes, you can also argue that the referees, what was going on with some pass interference calls at the end. Regardless, though, it was an exciting Harbaugh Bowl. And the Chiefs game, man, the Chiefs game was, I will say this, the Chiefs have more experience than the 49ers in the playoffs. And that showed in the fourth quarter. Patrick Mahomes, keep this in mind. I think the most underrated quarterback in the NFL right now is Jimmy Garoppolo. People love to hate on him. And that's because of the fourth quarter, blowout, his inaccurate passing, and lack of awareness to players like George Kittle that could have easily gotten the first down. And 4 plays. They just needed 4 plays to secure the victory. But, that's momentum in sports. That's what happens. But,
man, momentum is huge, man. And speaking of which, the 49ers had this amazing Super Bowl run. They pieced it together to win the NFC. Nobody thought they'd be like even 9-7, let alone going into the playoffs. Projections were like 8-8 to 6-10. But we recall previously there was a 49ers squad consisting of Alex Smith first, and then obviously Kaepernick took the helm. They went all the way to the NFC Championship game and then the Super Bowl in back-to-back years, couldn't get it done. So this time around, Keshav, what do the Niners have to do to overcome a Super Bowl slump and become a dynasty?
I think the biggest thing that is in question is the mentality of the team. I think the Super Bowl slump really comes down to a few factors. One is salary cap, which the Rams did a terrible job with. They pretty much exploded their team just to go for it in 1 year. The Niners did a better job. They made hard decisions, very tough decisions by trading DeForest Buckner, for example. But they got a draft pick in return, the 13th pick in the 2020 draft, and drafted Javon Kinlaw, right? Javon Kinlaw, sorry about that. And
Right.
while he isn't at the same state as DeForest Buckner, he is someone that could have the same trajectory and learn from an intense defensive line with Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, even players like, you can even say Solomon Thomas could have a comeback year, just like Eric Armstead did in 2019. And not to forget, you also have D Ford that they got from the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was quite injured throughout 2019. But when he was on the field, the pass rush was outstanding. So here's a few things. One is definitely the mentality. There is definitely expectations and pressures coming into the season, and COVID-19 has changed the landscape for the NFL. So that's one thing to consider. They may, not have a successful NFL season in 2021 due to the virus, but the Niners have to make sure they keep the team cohesive with right chemistry so that they can continue regardless of what happens to the NFL. But other than that, I wanted to point out that the offense, while they did lose Emmanuel Sanders in the offseason, has significantly improved. This comes to the fact that a lot of players that were injured in 2019 are coming back, and you cannot discount them. Jerick McKinnon, for example, he's a running back that can catch, but also has the perspective of a quarterback. That's something Jimmy Garoppolo has mentioned in some of his tweets or interviews with sports broadcasters. He can be a complete game changer on the backfield, as well as someone who can catch and run the ball with the Kyle Shanahan offense. And then you have someone like Jalen Hurd. Jalen Hurd was a running back turned receiver that is physical, has high yards after carry, which is what Kyle Shanahan loves. You have Brandon Ayuk, who Kyle Shanahan talks.
Out of ASU.
Yeah, out of ASU. And he says that he could be the next Isaac Bruce. And, that might be the case. That might not be. But he's in one of the best offensive systems. You have Trent Taylor, who's coming back. You have new picks yesterday, Jordan Reed. Yes, he does have an injury history, but provides a dual tight end threat with George Kittle on the block as well. So I'm very confident in the offense. And I forgot to mention, probably the biggest pickup this offseason is Trent Williams. Yes, they did lose Joe Staley, but Joe Staley was in the end of his career. Think about it. He's been there since before 2010. And he's played the whole decade in losing teams with very volatile coaching, franchise changes. He was getting injured near the end of his career, and they bring in a prime offensive lineman, a left tackle, right? Trent Williams is a left tackle, the blindside protector in the NFL, the best at it. Probably going to change the run game, definitely. So, lot to be excited on the offensive front, and they minimized the damage they lost in the defense with the pickup of Javon Kinlaw and some other free agent pickups that will help the secondary as well.
Yeah, and everybody talks about the Niners going into this Super Bowl slump, but for the most part, this team has remained largely unchanged. And as Keshav mentioned, they got Trent Williams. So if you think that run game was insane this year, imagine it this coming season, man. You got Raheem Mostert coming back. You got McKinnon, who's a pass-catching back, my guy out of Minnesota
Yeah.
Vikings. And so they got a lot of pieces to contend with. But I do want to go to Isaiah there. What do the Niners have to do to remain in contention and avoid this Super Bowl slump?
Listen, first of all, I'm just so glad to be joining y'all on this show today. I'm just walking around the outfield right now of the American high school baseball field. But to your question, Steven, I just think, first of all, the Niners just got to stay healthy. You know, if Jimmy G goes down, we're screwed, because I love Nick Mullins. I really do. I believe Nick Mullins would have won us the Super Bowl, and he would have made that throw. But I think Nick Mullins, over a long season, the 49ers aren't going to win like more than 6 games, and that's just being kind. But I think what the 49ers need to do is, the 49ers, they just got to stay healthy. They got to play their own game, and that's pretty much it. Just stay healthy, because if they stay healthy, this team is very tough to beat.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people mention the name Jimmy G. I think it's not so much about Jimmy G who has to go out there and win the game. He's shown that he's been able to do that. So there's not questions about whether or not he can go win the game for the Niners. I think just staying healthy and staying, consistently afloat for the team will be valuable, because he's had some injury concerns throughout his career. If Jimmy G can stay healthy throughout these next couple of seasons, the Niners could really go on a run to become a dynasty. But going back to the short term, I do want to get your guys' reaction on the Raheem Mostert situation and the Jordan Reed situation. So the Niners signed Jordan Reed to a 1-year minimum deal. And now with Mostert, he is requesting big time money for what he did this past season. How do you reconcile that as a Niners team, and how do you best effectively use the resources you got?
Yeah, good question. So one thing is they finally reached to a term with Raheem Mostert. The confusion has been reduced, closed. Nothing's up in the air. Looks like, from my perspective, Raheem Mostert wanted some guaranteed money, especially with COVID-19 going on. And he had a phenomenal offseason. The issue was that his agent took it to social media, which is against the 49er culture, right? A lot of problems can be dealt with internally.
I agree.
I know that, like Kyle Shanahan and, sorry, 1 second, let me turn off my notifications. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they both did display a little bit of concern over the actions that were taken by the agent, but I'm glad they solved the issue. And Raheem Mostert will be on the Niners for at least 2 years, if I am correct, if I'm not wrong. But the other thing is Jordan Reed. He is an interesting pick. They got him for a year. There is risk associated to him, but there's high upside. He's one of the best tight ends in the game, if healthy, just by his athletic gifts and what he can provide. He worked with Kyle Shanahan before with the Redskins, and he knows the offensive scheme, the single back wing tight formation that produces great play action passes and quick third down completions. He is a master at getting that third down. So imagine a team with both George Kittle and Jordan Reed with a surplus of receivers. Here's the one question everyone loves to come up with is, the Niners don't have a true number one receiver like a Julio Jones, or like an Odell Beckham. Cool thing here is they have an established receiver with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel's on the rise, and they have a surplus of young receivers who they can try and test out and see who could stay on the team. Hey, I'm going to tell you right now, I think Kendrick Bourne has the potential of being Cooper Cup type level. They work together too.
I agree with
great
that.
Slot receiver. He's been working hard in the offseason. And this is the big thing people fail to realize is the Niners team is so young. They're so young.
Yes, sir.
And it comes to the biggest thing is experience here. And once they get more experience, high desire to play and win, I think they'll do a good job.
Yeah, and I think we're all in agreement here that the Niners moving forward, this is going to be a team to be reckoned with in the NFC. I don't think they're just going to go away like the Rams, because you mentioned the salary cap issues. It's just simply not on the same level as what the Rams have. The Niners didn't go out there and overpay a defensive lineman and then overpay a running back and then overpay a quarterback. Yeah, they gave Jimmy G the big contract, right? But it's heavily incentive laden and it's not all guaranteed money. They covered their corners pretty well. So I think that this is a team that will contend moving forward. I do want to get your short term prediction though, Keshav. How do you see the Niners doing this season? Just gut reaction and then moving forward.
A lot. It's tough to predict given COVID-19 circumstances. I mean, look at the MLB. The season could go short, or could he just cancel given what happened to the Marlins? And football is the most contact-based sport, so a lot of it is external. But assuming that everything is fine and they figure it out, and it's a 16, a 17, they have some changes with the schedule, right? Is there an additional game now, or what's going on?
So the additional game will be applying the season after this season. So it would be the 2021 to 2022 season. However, this year will be a 16-game schedule, but with an extra playoff team at the end. So from now on until further notice, pretty much indefinitely, they are going to be having 7 playoff teams per conference.
God, okay, that makes sense. I'm fairly, I remember we made a bet on if the Niners were going to win more than 11 games. And
you destroyed me on that, man.
It was a risky bet, to be honest, since like no one knows at the beginning of the season. But with that said, I could easily see the Niners going again above 11 wins. 11 to 13 looks to be their range. With a confident bet on 12-4. That's what a lot of sports journalists have put on as a prediction. I will say the NFC West has gotten tougher, with Cardinals adding DeAndre Hopkins and interesting draft picks, to the Seahawks adding Jamal Adams with a phenomenal quarterback, Russell Wilson. So with that said, I still think that the Niners will be on top of the NFC, the West, and I think they could be the NFC champions, given that they run their plan accordingly. COVID-19 will be a big issue.
Gut feeling, initially, I had the Niners slightly missing the playoffs this year. I will give them 9-7. I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy G to live up to those Super Bowl level expectations, and they're going to fall a little bit short. However, with the 17 playoff season system, I do picture them sneaking into the playoffs, and I'll say this. Not only will the Niners struggle this season, but they'll win the Super Bowl next season. I think this is a deal where they take 1 year off and they kind of regroup and find out their identity with these new guys coming in. Jordan Reed, Jerick McKinnon, Brandon Ayuk. They find out what they have, and then they build that confidence back up, come back completely, healthy, new swagger, and they win it. I think they win the Super Bowl in a couple of years. I do see this team as set up for long-term success.
They
now, dynasty is the big question.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, very interesting take. I wanted to challenge you on that. First of all, I do agree they have long-term success pretty much set up. And dynasty, we can get into that conversation later. But let's just look at the schedule for the 49ers. And why 9-7 probably doesn't make sense. They're going to face the Cardinals at home in the beginning.
Right.
I think that's a win. They're going to face the Jets. That's another win. The Giants, a win. Eagles, you can question it, but I still think they have the advantage. The Dolphins, they have an advantage. We're already at 5. Rams, I don't think they're going to look hot. They're probably going to be near the Cardinals or at the bottom of the division. From the schedule, the biggest threats that Niners really have could be the Saints, obviously. So that's one game. I don't think the Packers are going to, the Niners destroyed the Packers 2 games last year. So I'm not going to put the Packers as a threat. And they wasted a draft pick on a quarterback. I wouldn't say it's a waste, but they could have picked a strong receiver to pair up with one of the best quarterbacks of all time, Aaron Rodgers. The Patriots don't have Tom Brady, and they've lost quite a bit of players, and a lot of them are opting out this season due to COVID-19. The Patriots are probably going to tank, or you could see them slipping in to the playoffs, very, very subtly. But I just don't see them going 9-7. I think they have an advantage over most, like around 12 teams, and that sets them up at least for 11-5.
Yeah, I think 11-5, 10-6, pretty fair predictions. I stick with 9-7 just because I think that they have to integrate so many new targets this year. So I can picture that being a struggle combined with that Super Bowl hype that they have.
But they integrated Emmanuel Sanders quite fast. And not only that, Deebo Samuel is a first-year receiver. Look at the receiving corps they had last year. It's the same thing. They probably just have more experience. So I wouldn't have a doubt on the offense. The question is, can the secondary maintain its strength? The secondary was honestly the reason why the Niners lost the Super Bowl. They gave up the 3rd and 15 pass. That Patrick Mahomes he was pretty much pancake. Like the whole offensive line collapsed. He was about to get sacked, and then he bombs a pass to Tyreek Hill. That's something that can happen again. And I'm sure the secondary will be improved.
Right. Because they've been depending heavily on that front seven. So you got them at 11-5. So if I'm correct,
I wouldn't even say 11-5. I think I'm going to change my opinion. I'm probably going to say they're going 13-3 again.
13-3. So they're winning the division, Keshav.
They're going to win the division, yes.
Okay, great. Isaiah, do we have a early season prediction from you before you get off?
Yes, the San Francisco 49ers are going to win 14 games next season because if you look at the schedule, I don't trust Arizona. Their offense is great, with the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, and they've added a bunch of more pieces. Seattle, we know what they can do, but their defense, that's the problem. Their defense last season had the worst pass rush in the NFL. And we all know in this division, if you cannot get to the quarterback, you're not going to win this division. It's plain and simple. They have the worst pass rush with Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney is gone now. So the Seahawks are basically banking that Jamal Adams can single-handedly save their secondary from giving up a ton of touchdown passes. I don't see it. The Rams, they just lost Todd Gurley. They lost their receiver, Brandon Cooks. I think they're going to take a step back. So I think the 49ers, this is their division to win, and they are playing the NFC East and the AFC East. So you got teams like the Redskins, the Giants, the Jets that are going to be easy teams. So given their schedule, I believe the 49ers have a chance to win at least 14 games simply because their division, I think they have that in a stranglehold, and the schedule is just really weak.
Yeah. Speaking of the Niners, we're going to stick on this topic and go over to the NFL Top 100s list. So within the Top 100 list that was released by NFL Network, based on player opinions, guys, Jimmy Garoppolo was rated number 43 overall within NFL players and rated the 8th best quarterback. My guy Kirk Cousins, Skull, was rated the 10th best quarterback, number 58. Tannehill clocked in at number 68, and Lamar Jackson reigned supreme in the list. He is the number 1 best quarterback and the number 1 best overall players in the top 100s list. Keshav, what was your biggest surprise reaction to this list?
I'll be honest. I thought Patrick Mahomes is going number 1, given that he won a Super Bowl. I will say that Lamar Jackson had a phenomenal season. He broke the combo record on passing and rushing yards, if I'm not mistaken. But he didn't get the job done. So I'm not sure if this list included the playoffs. Do you know anything about that?
It was completely voted on by the players, and it did include the playoffs. Yeah, it was voted after the playoffs ended, and the players just ranked the 100 best players in the NFL.
Interesting. I mean, I will say Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal quarterback with high talent, and no doubt last season puts him in the top 5. I just don't know if he would be put ahead in front of Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes got the job done, and he's a winning quarterback. And he made impossible plays and passes against one of the top defenses in the NFL. You cannot discount 49ers pass rush, like Isaiah said, in the Super Bowl. They were pretty much beating him 3 quarters in, and somehow he changed the outcome of the game. It was him single-handedly with the
Yes.
Tyreek Hill situation, but it was him who single-handedly changed the momentum of the game. And I think that he would have been, in my eyes, the number 1 quarterback and the number 1 player in the NFL. But other than that, I still think Lamar, Russell Wilson, and Pat Mahomes are just phenomenal, the elite quarterbacks of the NFL. And I mean, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, the GOAT level quarterbacks, they are moving past their prime. So it is fair to say that they don't have to be in the top 5. But the question does come down to, was Lamar Jackson truly better than Pat Mahomes, especially when it counted?
Right. And then what about Jimmy Garoppolo being rated number 43 overall and the 8th best quarterback? What are your takes on that?
So who were the 6th and 7th best quarterbacks?
The 6th and 7th best quarterbacks, I believe there was Brady and there was Breeze. But I can take a look at that list for you.
Yeah, I think that it's a fair assessment given that he was top 5 in multiple statistical categories, touchdowns to third down completions, red zone completions. I think that people just don't want to look at that. Everyone is just biased because they saw in the playoffs. That's when everyone watches NFL. That's when everyone will watch the 49ers.
Right.
They just saw that the Niners ran the ball more and Jimmy G couldn't complete passes like he did in games that mattered. He helped them beat the Saints. Obviously, George Kittle was a big one, but just look at that game. That was a pass-heavy game. He was dueling Drew Brees, who's one of the best, if not one of the best of all time, and he kept the score even when they were down, I think 2 touchdowns. He kept it going and he helped them win the game. That is an elite performance in my eyes. And that is probably what we're going to see more in 2021. This is what other people tend to forget.
Yeah, you know what?
There's a lack of empathy because, he tore his ACL. It's painful. Imagine going on a football field and you have top pass rushers trying to get at you and your knee is just in pain. And you've not even had a full 16 game season. This was Jimmy G's first full 16 game season. It is weird as he's a 27, 28-year-old to have it at this age, but putting it in perspective, Patrick Mahomes had more snaps and more experience than Jimmy G on the football field.
Yeah, and I do have the top 13 quarterbacks list pulled up here. I will share my screen very quickly here. And, what it is number 1, we have, Lamar Jackson, who was the MVP of the league. Number 2, Russell Wilson. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes. Number 4, Drew Brees. Number 5, Tom Brady. Number 6, Aaron Rodgers. Number 7, Deshaun Watson. So those were the guys that were ahead of Jimmy G. And then the guys that were behind him, which was, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Tannehill, Josh Allen, and Murray. A lot of those guys I just listed, including my guy, Kirk Cousins. I love Kirk Cousins, man. I can't tell you how much, I really enjoyed his performance against the Saints. I think he finally proved the doubters wrong by winning a big-time game on a good team for the first time and not the Redskins. Yeah, he has proven doubters wrong. But the fact is, you look at this list, most of the guys here that are behind Jimmy G are also people who have only had, 1 or 2 good seasons. Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Tannehill, Murray. He was literally a rookie last year. And then the guys ahead of him, I don't have any beef with that. Watson, Rodgers, Brady, Brees, Mahomes, Wilson, and Jackson. Those are pretty reasonable guys to have ahead of Jimmy G. And here's my overall take on the situation. NFL players love winners. I don't care if you're an NFL player that cares about the money. I don't care if you're an NFL player that cares about getting the most amount of snaps and, having that volume to become a star. The bottom line is no matter what, you want to win the game. And when you have a quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo, who might not always put up the best numbers in a run-heavy system, especially in the playoffs, but in his first season out of injury, he takes you to the Super Bowl when the team was only expected to be sub 500, players are going to look at that highly, regardless of who may or may not have contributed to the wins that much. Sure, you could say Mostert was the biggest contributor to the wins, or sure, you could say it was the Niners defense. But the fact is, this is a guy who has his first full season as a starter, won the NFC, and looked very, very competitive and sharp in the first 3 quarters of the Super Bowl. He's not perfect. He did miss the big throw to Emmanuel Sanders, but I think number 8 and number 43, you can't be surprised, especially when it's a list ranked by players who play the game to win. So if a guy gets you the Super Bowl, he's going to be top rated. Not Lamar Jackson, number 1. He was the league MVP. He's the Madden cover athlete. He won an actual award that said he was the best at something. Again, it's rated by players. If you're saying that he hadn't won anything, let's say he'd finished 3rd place in MVP voting, got knocked out in the 2nd round, fine. He shouldn't be rated number 1. But the fact is he did win the MVP award, so it's not outlandish for players to put him at number 1. Now, I don't think Mahomes is the 3rd best quarterback or the 4th best player in the NFL. I think he's the best. But to put Lamar Jackson number 1, you do have a case for that.
That's a great point. Yeah, looking at this list, I think the quarterbacks in front of Garoppolo are, I mean, they're some of the best, if not the best of all time. Tom Brady, you can make the debate there. And Deshaun Watson, I guess, is the only one who you can question what is his playoff experience like. But given he's just a phenomenal talent, Clemson product that can run and throw the ball. So that's a fair assessment. And I can see you on the Kirk Cousins perspective as well. I think he's a good quarterback. A lot of his talents were shown when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive he worked with him on the offense. Was he the offensive coordinator for the Redskins, or was he just a quarterback's coach?
I believe he was a quarterback's coach, Kevin Stefanski.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, Cousins can do the job. It's just, he has a lot of pressure, external pressure. That's what happens when you have a team that's not just built on the offense, but has a good defense, has an interesting run game, and great receiving threats.
Last thing before we wrap up this NFL segment and get to our last topic, the Niners wanted Kirk Cousins for some time. Looking back as a Niners fan, are you glad that you missed out on Kirk Cousins? Or you think Kirk Cousins could have done the job better than Jimmy G?
I'm glad that we missed out on Kirk Cousins. He's an expensive quarterback. If I remember looking at a list, he was like the 7th most. He was like the 7th biggest paid player. I mean, this is going to change with the salary cap, either going up or down again with COVID-19 in play. We don't know, but right. Kirk Cousins is very expensive, and I think Jimmy G has trained under one of the best, if not the best of all time, and Bill Belichick, one of the best coaches of all time, and he's going to what I think is the next Bill Belichick, the young offensive genius, and Kyle Shanahan. So Jimmy G's a winner. I saw the magic when he came to the Niners, a team that was going to get the first pick in the NFL draft. They were 2-10, and they went 6-10. He won 5 games straight, I think. Now I think he was probably 1-9, something like that. But he won these games straight. He showed the 49ers fans that there's a winner in town. Unfortunately, the next season, which a lot of people said the Niners would make the playoffs, he gets injured and the tides turn. Funny fact, that was against the Chiefs. So made the Super Bowl defeat a little bit more painful. But it's just that's how it is.
Hey, Keshav, you guys got to get back at them, man. You got to get revenge on them.
Oh, one thing I will say as a Niners fan is I'm also happy that Andy Reid got a championship in his belt. He's a great coach. He's also an offensive genius. Pat Mahomes I view Pat Mahomes, and this might be a good segue to the next segment, as the Steph Curry of the NFL. He really is.
He looks like Steph Curry, dude.
I mean, his father was an athlete. Same with Steph's father. So he grew up in a household where, family was integrated, like very into sports. So he has that sports characteristic and mindset. He also played baseball. So that really helped with his hand-eye coordination and, difficult passes. So yeah, I'm happy that if there was one team, I will say there are downsides to the Chiefs. They have some players that have questionable ethics. We can get into that another day. But for Andy Reid to win and Pat Mahomes to win, I think it's good. It's a well-deserved team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you got the long range shooting of Steph Curry and you got the long range passing of Mahomes. And that's where you got the integration. They look alike too. I mean, they really are the Steph Currys of their league. The last thing I'll say is I don't blame you on that Jimmy G, Kirk Cousins take. Cousins is expensive. And statistically, if you look at the stats, completion rate, TD to interception ratio, quarterback rating, passer rating, they're very, very similar across the board. Just one person got to the Super Bowl and the other one didn't. So I don't fault you at all for taking Jimmy G over Cousins. But with that being said, I do want to get into our final segment. Did you have one more thing to say about that?
I'll give you like a few facts before we end off the NFL topic. So the first thing is you want to look at the philosophy of every team and what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have done. The philosophy, the enjoyment of players, the culture they brought up. It's very similar to the Warriors. It's a place where people can enjoy and have fun. Look at Kendrick Bourne. He's posting on Instagram. He's having a great time. You can look at his stories. The second thing is, Jimmy G is in a season that will be, a lot of people will be looking at him. So he needs to be prepared. If he doesn't do a good job, I could see a change in what the Niners, like the direction the Niners take. And a big part of that, big reason they can make a change is the potential availability of a player by the name of Aaron Rodgers, who is a Bay Area product. If Jimmy G cannot get the job done, the Niners, they have an active Super Bowl run in them. They need someone who can close that fourth quarter, 2 minutes to go. They're down by 3. What are they going to do? If they don't see it in Jimmy G, I could see them potentially taking on an Aaron Rodgers and maybe grooming in a younger quarterback and having Rodgers retire with the Niners. I doubt it, though. I think Jimmy G is the future, and we're going to see the best of him next season. And it's going to be a big reason why they'll do well. Definitely a dark horse candidate for some awards. And I will end off by saying that a lot of it comes down to the Niners system they built in. It's a plug and play system. You could replace a receiver, a tight end, and it'll probably sustain. The core of it is the offensive line. They've spent years and money on building it with great talent. Trent Williams, Mike McGlinchey, Laken Tomlinson, and that's why the run game works, and that's why the pass game will eventually be the standard, I think, in the NFL too.
Love the take, Keshav. And, speaking of the Golden State Warriors, I want to say, though, it is damn impressive that the Niners have built this amazing 1A and 1B option. They are definitely going to be scary in the NFC. I'm a Vikings fan. When I watched that game against the Niners, I was scared to death. Every play, I was like hoping and praying that they don't put it away with this one play. They are a scary team, dude. Like the Harbaugh Niners, they really won through intimidation as well. So they're big and strong. They're intimidating. But, speaking of which, let's go across the bay. We got the Golden State Warriors, who are actually in San Francisco now in the financial district, playing in the fancy new stadium and everything. They've had a down year, to say the least. But people got to remember, it's only been one down year. So I'll open it up with this. What is the long-term outlook for the Warriors, Keshav? Because I feel like, like Cowherd said, you take the worst year of somebody and you take the best year and you take them out, and that's who they are. This Warriors team had really good years with KD, and now they had a really bad year. So what's the long-term outlook of this Warriors team entering into the coming seasons?
Before I even answer that question, it is sad that they lost the 2019 finals to the Raptors. Raptors are a good team, by the way. You can see it right now in the bubble. And somehow Steph was able to pull up and get a good points per game rate, I think, with great accuracy against such a powerful defensive team with Kawhi in the place in 2019. But, man, it was sad just to see Clay go down, KD go down, KD coming back in and then going down again. We thought to ourselves, like, wow, this could be a lot of people in the NBA thought, oh, is this the fall of the Warriors? Even myself included, I'm like, what's the future like? But here's how I'm going to start it off with. while they did get unlucky in the finals, they got very, very lucky with a bad season. I would have not expected them to go 15-50 if Steph was healthy and Clay was healthy. They would have probably been a playoff team. I don't know if they would win a championship though. But with Clay out for the season and that trade they got from KD, like they were about to lose KD for free and they got capital. They got
Right.
KD leaving was not a huge loss given that they got things in return. They got a fantastic player, D'Angelo Russell, with and did not lose the draft pick because they were not good this year. While the D'Lo experiment didn't work with the Warriors, they were able to net not only Andrew Wiggins, but an additional draft pick in the 2022, right? 2021 draft.
2021 draft.
Yeah, that's only top 3 protected. So that's one key thing to notice is that they got a draft from KD, the loss of KD. They were able to net Andrew Wiggins and an additional top 10 draft pick, in my opinion. I don't know where the Timberwolves are going. I don't think they're going to be the bottom 3 worst, but they probably will give them a nice lottery pick or, a mid-round pick. So that's one thing. And the second is Steph Curry getting his hand injured. That was just the weirdest play when Aaron Baines, what was it? What was the guy?
Aaron Baines?
Aaron Baines. Yeah, Aaron Baines. He just fell on Steph and he got his hand injured. And that pretty much knocked Curry for most of the season. Because of that, they just started losing games. And people love to criticize, Draymond Green did not come up, he
wasn't raised to be a number 1 option.
He is not a number 1 option. And this brings me to Andrew Wiggins. So is he. He's not raised to be a number 1 option too. And they got him in a system that's going to work once everyone is healthy. So this is what happened. They got unlucky this season, and that actually turned into luck because they have a top draft pick. They have draft capital. They got Andrew Wiggins. They have a mid-round. They have a trade exception of around $17 million from Andre Iguodala, which will allow them to take in 2 to 3 veteran players, or maybe just one really good veteran player. And what I'm going to see is it's really up to this offseason. They can blow it, but I doubt it. And the reason is they're not in the bubble right now. They are not competing. They are spending time on the analytics tools, looking at the players, thinking about the future, really deciding if Wiseman would be the pick. And before I end, and we can start getting into questions, not only that, they got some really interesting pieces. Marquise Chris. Yeah, sure. People love to claim he's a bust, but he's so young and he was on the Suns. The Suns suck. Devin Booker, they're doing good right now. Like they won 3 games straight, but that system was not good for Marquise Chris. It was not good for Josh Jackson. It was not good for top high school prospects and NBA prospects. They just ended up being busts by the fans. So they got Marquise Chris. They found Eric Paschall in the draft. Such a steal. Amazing player. I could see him being a really high-performing role player. Jordan Poole has potential to be a good guard. They have Damian Lee, Kai Bowman. What's missing is a few key veteran players. We're talking in the lens of like a Sean Livingston, Mo Spates type vibe, an Iguodala type vibe. And then, last thing is the 2015 NBA championship team the Warriors had can look identical to the one they'll get, if not better, the 2020 team, with the amount of capital they have. So
yeah,
go ahead.
In your long, explanation there, I loved every piece of it. You mentioned Andrew Wiggins. So we're going to dive into that real quickly. Is Andrew Wiggins a mainstay on the Warriors? Is he a long-term player for the Warriors?
So the big question a lot of people love to ask is Wiggins going to be converted into someone big like Giannis? Yeah, that's great fantasy. Who knows? Could happen. But I want to focus on Wiggins. First of all, he's a better positional fit than D'Lo. He's a small forward. Compare to Andrew Wiggins to Harrison Barnes. In every statistical category, Andrew Wiggins wins. Here's the key difference. Wiggins was expected to be a star with the Timberwolves. He had such a rough start to his NBA career because the Cavs picked him and then traded him once LeBron came back. And he goes to the T-Wolves with Thibodeau, who he actually liked, who's well known to overwork players and get them fatigued That's why he also was let go. Now he's on the Knicks, which is funny. But yeah, he was expected to be a star along with Cat. And with the Warriors, less pressure, more mobility, more of a system fit. He's not he just needs to take a few of his open shots, the ones that he can get in. He can improve his 3-point percentage. By the way, all of this has been an improvement in the 2019 season. The biggest issue with Wiggins was his efficiency as a player. He was not efficient. He was mediocre, a little below mediocre for most of his career. Changed in 2019. He's in an upward trajectory, and he's about to go into the best system in the NBA, one that's filled with empathy, excitement, mindfulness, one that has transcended the 11 rings lifestyle of Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich's dynasty. So I have high hopes for for
Yes,
Wiggins.
sir. I love what you did there, and he's in the beautiful SF Bay Area. All right. Another question for you. Where would you like the Warriors to go with this draft pick? Because you mentioned the top draft pick they get from having a terrible year. So where do you want them to go in the draft now?
Yeah, a good one. You know, a lot of critics love to say that the 2020 draft is weak. That's what they'll say. That's what they probably said with the Giannis draft year. When did he get drafted? 2014? Was it 2014, 2015? When was this draft?
2013, I believe. Or it could have been
2013.
2014.
A lot of people say, you know, an NBA draft is a weak draft, but you have to realize, and you know, prospects are getting better each year with better technology and information to play the game better.
Yes,
That's just a fact. Yeah, sure, you have Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green, right? Jalen Green, who's were fantastic players, by the way, that are coming in 2021. But I would not discount James Wiseman, Obi Toppin, you know, Anthony Edwards. You can even say LaMelo Ball, right? I don't think they're going to pick him.
Yeah, he's just not a good fit with Clay and Steph.
Nah, he's not a good fit. Anthony Edwards, he could be an interesting candidate, but I think that they can, you know, depends on their position, but there's a few there's a few options that they can do. The first is they can take the top pick, someone like a Wiseman or Obi Toppin, and you know, play a new form of a dead lineup. That's one option. The second is trade down, still stay in the top 10. Let some team that needs LaMelo or Anthony Edwards pick the top pick.
Especially LaMelo, man. He's the flashy pick.
He's the flashy pick. Let them pick him. Get the 5th pick or get a pick maybe in the mid round and get a player with it, with a trade exception, right? So you can trade down, get a veteran player and a draft pick that actually fits the Warriors. So that's another option. The third option is put all the capital and go for the star. If something happens with the Bucks, I'm going to put it to you. I'll tell you the team that most likely will have an issue. It's the 76ers. I could see someone moving from there. And the Warriors are the best team in the league right now with the capital, like the best team in the sense that they have the capital to trade for a star, which puts them at a unique advantage. No other team. It's like the Boston Celtics, you know, they had a bunch of draft picks after the Kevin Garnett trade, right? And it was Paul Pierce and Garnett, right? That yielded them so many draft picks in the future. So they have that type of capital. Yeah, I could see them making one of those 3 moves, but we'll see how things go.
Yeah, you know, one thing that's really interesting is a lot of people are counting out the Warriors long term. And I personally think not only was this year good in terms of landing a top draft pick for them, but it was also good in terms of recovery. Because a lot of people, they talk about how LeBron James has gone to 8 straight finals, right? Well, the Warriors went to 4 or 5 straight finals, right? So they're tired from all their postseason runs. You know, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond getting all of that rest could actually serve to help them long term. But the way I see it, answering the question, will the Warriors continue to be a dynasty and kind of what can they do? I do kind of see the Warriors being like the Pistons 5 after their first title. I think their days of winning the championship are most likely behind them, but I see them as a mainstay contender moving forward. A team that can go to the conference finals, force a 7-game series against maybe a Giannis in the West or a Kawhi in the West. But I think they're going to fall just a little short of getting title number 4 for themselves. So title
this
number
era.
4 within this era, right?
Yeah.
So what about you? Long term, what kind of run do you expect them to put together?
You know, it was great that the Last Dance documentary came out, and there are books out there like 11 Rings that give perspective on dynasties in the past, like the Chicago Bulls. If you remember, they won the first 3. Jordan leaves. They have a 2-year break, which they were decent. They were pretty good. Didn't win the championship. One of the years was just completely off. And then they come back at it and win 3 again. That break year is essential. That's what happened with the Spurs. That's what happened with the Lakers too. When Phil Jackson was gone and came back, right? That was like a break year with Kobe, and Shaq left, unfortunately. But, you know, the team started to figure it out. You know, what do they need? Who are the players that are going to live for the next run, right? They know, just like KD left, the Lakers knew Shaq left. They had to build a team around a new type of lifestyle, right? A new type of player, Kobe. Having that rest, just like you mentioned, is key. They have such, you know, a lot of NBA players right now are going to lose that offseason with the bubble. They're going to be burnt out. They're going to think beyond basketball. Man, just think about it. You're in a bubble. You can't go meet your family. You can't meet, you know, females. That's what a lot of NBA players like to do.
Let's
you
be
can't
real, man.
go I'm spitting. I mean, I'm just going to tell the truth, man. Like, you can't go gambling. You can't do a lot of real life activities. So I think they're going to just deep down, I feel psychologically they're going to go prioritize other things when these bubble games are over. But the Warriors, they're just resting up. They're spending so much time thinking about the next few moves, the light years ahead mentality. Steph Curry is hungry to go play, and I think they're going to just come to the league rocking in 2021. I feel like they have championships in their vicinity. Obviously, it's more competitive. The LA teams are difficult, and wherever Giannis goes will be a threat. So the key here is for them to get 2 to 3 veteran players. They need to build up that lineup beyond just, you know, the Steph and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, big 3. You know, the 5th option is a big question. It could be a Marquise Chris. They have Kevon Looney too, who was fantastic in the playoffs. Or they can go with a James Wiseman, or they could go trade that pick and get someone interesting for number 5. But I see them, you know, for the next 6 years, it's like a rebirth of it's a different dynasty. It's a different team. It's not the same one with KD. Remember, when KD came to the Warriors, it broke the league. It was just completely unbalanced.
Yeah,
You're putting a superstar, like maybe the second best, or if not the best player in the league at the time, with another really good player. Yeah, the best team. Yeah, it was. You didn't have like the league is just way more balanced now. So the Warriors will definitely face more competition. But here's what they have with them. This is what they have: 5 years of championship experience. They didn't win all of them, but they've been in the finals. They know
3 of them.
What it's like. Yeah, they won 3 of them. They were close to winning another one, and they were also they had the chance to win all of them. To be honest, they just blew it. And each loss in the finals led to a new type of team, right? 2016 loss led to the best team of all time Warriors, right? Talent-wise, at least. With 2017 Warriors or something else. And then this last one in 2019 is leading to a new type of Warriors, a more young Warriors team that will build on as Steph and Klay and Draymond get older. So I think that the long-term strategy, to answer your question, is that the Warriors are going to the playoffs every year. I'll see them in the conference finals. You are right. They may lose a few games. They might lose it in the conference finals, but I could see them going to the championship as well. The biggest obstacle is probably the LA teams. You also have Denver with, a young group of players. But then again, I just out of the players in the NBA, the Warriors have the most that have finals experiences under the belt.
Yeah, not just playoff finals experience. And I love that you mentioned it, that, I do believe, and I do agree with you on the sense that the Warriors have managed to bounce back incredibly from each loss. Losing in 7 games to the Clippers got that dynasty start in the first place to win the title. Then they lose in 2016 up 3-1, and they build the best super team in literally sports history. And then now they lose KD and they gain the number one pick likely in the NBA draft and valuable rest. So I think they have a plan. This is a team with a plan long term. I will say this though. This team cannot be the same way as the 2015 team where you just have Steph, Clay, and Draymond carrying out the big load. I think they cannot necessarily revert back to that completely because I think the league is getting smarter as far as guarding Curry and Thompson, and players are getting older. Draymond Green is not quite the athlete he was in 2015, where you can just run up and down the court chasing LeBron or chasing KD down the court. But, to kind of wrap it up, let's go big picture here, Keshav, because the San Francisco Bay Area has generated a lot of powerhouse teams and powerhouse athletes at that. What do you think it is about this area that gives them an express advantage in sports?
That's a fascinating question. It's something I've thought about. I mean, it's definitely one of it is the history of the sports teams in the area. You've had one of the greatest dynasties, the 49ers. These lots of players that come into different, they'll come visit Giants games, they'll come visit Warriors games, and they'll talk about the great days, just inspire greatness. Like all three teams have something in them. The Giants went on one of the craziest dynasty runs, 2010, 2012, 2014, that inspired the Warriors to do the same. The 49ers have a long history of just winners, and they want to do the same as well. It's a city, the Bay Area is a place of winning. So that's one thing, great history. The second is, exposure to new technology, exposure to great leaders. It's not just in sports, there's a lot of cross learning, right? You can be a great, look at Andre Iguodala. He's a great basketball player, but he's also a fantastic investor, and he learns from different experts. Steph Curry is great at golf. He learns from different sports experts. Steve Kerr is a well-educated coach with the right mindset, very, very fundamental with philosophy and meditation and mindfulness, and that actually goes into the court. That's how they play the game, and Steve Kerr has that because of Phil Jackson, because of his own experiences. One little interesting story was Steve used to have a set of notes. He had like a game plan if he were to be a coach, how he would coach, and this is the type of career he wanted to go into, and they got this type of coach, and that's why the Warriors are also good, because they have the right leadership in place. So the second big thing is the right people in the area for it. That's why Boston's also good. It's an intellectual city. There's Harvard and MIT, great analytics departments, great leaders, access to researchers that can actually improve, conditioning and training for players, right? Just look at the facility of the Warriors. It's probably the best stadium in the league right now. They have cameras that can track analytics of where people shoot and, the form of their shot and how they can tweak little things. I'm sorry to say this, not every team in the NBA has that access. Not only that, they're a rich team, and
not the Timberwolves, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it is what it is. You have to look deeper too, right? The Warriors, they have Chase Center, and they're renting out buildings to top startups like Uber and Samsara. These buildings are going to generate revenue. They have a venture capitalist owner who knows how to, get great returns, and this is going to directly impact the team. It's kind of like the New York Yankees. They were good because they had access to the old money era. And now I think that the Bay Area has an advantage because of the rise of the tech scene. Great leaders, talent comes to the Bay Area. There's a reason our parents came to the Bay Area because of job opportunities. And you're getting some of the best people in the world all in one place. They can just come in for a visit, do some consulting, and help the team out. So that's another huge thing. And finally, I think there's something about our fans. We're very passionate, enthusiastic, kind. A lot of places in the United States, it's not the same. I'll give you an example. Philadelphia. I'm not sure about what's going on there. It just seems like the fans are harsh. New York too. Man, I don't know what Katie is going to go through because the media there is quite.
That's why he didn't go to the Knicks, man. I mean, the Nets is bad enough. They're out there in New York, but if you went to the Knicks, man, that'd be 2 times as worse.
3 times as worse. So
Yeah, and
I'll say that. Those are the 3 big things.
I think you bring up a lot of great points with the analytics, with just an area and a culture that cultivates winners. I'll add on to that as well, and I think the biggest thing with the Warriors, the Giants, and these Bay Area teams, why do they continue to succeed? I think number one, there's capital funding. Like you said, you have tech companies like Uber, you have tech companies like Cisco, Oracle. They're coming in and they're funding these teams and funding the team's success and incentivizing them to continue building that fan base and that success. Because to generate fan base, you have to win. You got to give fans a reason to root. So I think that's number one. They get a lot of capital funding. Number two, obviously the history. And then I'll add a little bit deeper into that. I think that this is an environment where there is the history of winning, and it has like a great sports tradition, but on top of that, it has great weather and it has great entertainment. What do players like besides winning, right? We got to look at the reasons besides winning. Yeah, they have the money. Yeah, they have the history of winning, right? But on top of that, they have fantastic weather and they have the fantastic entertainment. And then the third thing, Keshav, is that they have all of this money, right? And they have all of this entertainment. Yet, because they are not the entertainment or media capital of the world that LA or New York City are, while enjoying these economic and entertainment and culture advantages, the players don't have the same amount of pressure that players in LA and New York do. So it has the advantages of having big market infrastructure and attractions without the big market pressure.
Oh, I love that. Love to see that. That's good insight. I think that the weather too, there's something about weather, like I don't have the empathy, or I cannot empathize with those that suffer through a strong winter storm, like a basketball player that might be in, like Minnesota Timberwolves, right? Like they probably just have such a boring winter. While we can enjoy a nice 62, 65, 70 degree day here in the Bay Area, and live in a nice, where, a lot of NBA players like to live on hillsides, great views of the Bay, great views of everything. So that's one key thing. Good point there.
Yeah, it's an oasis out here, man. When it comes to sports, don't underestimate intellect. Don't underestimate weather. You look at the best teams out there, Boston teams, Bay Area teams, LA teams, very, very smart people running those organizations. Very great weather for 2 of those, Bay Area and LA. But, with that being said, Keshav, sorry to keep you a little bit overtime and everything, but it's been great having you on board. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, I've enjoyed this video jam session a lot. I hope to come on again. Maybe one day we can talk about the Giants. I think there's something interesting brewing up there with Farhan.
I will definitely.
But
yeah.
No. I guess just final thoughts is keep out this podcast. I look forward to seeing some more interesting guests. And for anyone that is questioning Bay Area sports, a lot of the answers are here. Can't predict the future, but all I can say is there's a great system and culture in place, and I am excited for the next decade.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. This was very fun. And, last thing, we got to have high hopes for Bay Area sports.
Yes. High hopes for the Bay Area teams. All right.
With that being said, guys, we are going to wrap up here. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks to our special guest, Keshav. And we will leave you guys with some high hopes. Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys.
Destiny. Back in the days, we wanted everything. Mama said, burn your biographies, rewrite your history, light up